Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. One person who tested positive for COVID-19 in Saskatchewan has died. The person was in the 80-plus age category in the Regina zone. There are 111 new cases with 11 in our zone. 7 of those are in the immediate Lloydminster area where we have 49 active cases. There are 1,414 cases active in the province. 139 people are in hospital, with 10 of those in our zone. More than 10,000 vaccine doses have been administered in the Northwest and more than 93,000 across Saskatchewan. The city is continuing with its sewer and water replacement program this summer, working on 2 blocks of 50th Street west of the downtown core. Eric Bay has more.
After spending last summer replacing water and sewer lines on 50th Street between 51st and 52nd Avenue, this summer's replacement will move further down the street. The work will be done between 52nd and 54th Avenue and is expected to take most of the summer.
In some cases, we're still dealing with cast in the older part of the city, so that needs to be replaced. We've been fortunate, touch wood, so far that we haven't had any water breaks, but that's what we see is the ground shifting and those pipes breaking. So that's why, and we'll continue to tackle that project. There is another good 20 plus years of replacement required.
The water and sewer replacement will be expanded this summer with multiple projects under budget. The extra money will be used on replacement in the city that has yet to be determined.
Based on their estimates, when projects are able to come in under budget, sometimes as we do see this year, from what they expected, we have had some other issues come up, so we'll be able to address a failed sewer line in the near future, and that money will be coming out of the budget rather than having to come into reserves.
The city hopes to take advantage of provincial grants to cover the project before the impact of COVID reduces grant funding.
We'll see an increase this year and then a decrease the following 2 years. So yeah, we are going to have to do some adjusting to budgets going forward to try and deal with what we have, because we can only work with what the money we have.
Rusway Construction Limited of Lloydminster has been awarded the water and sewer replacement contract. The company also handled the 2020 project. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
In this week's Beyond the Classroom, we take a look at the Lloydminster Public School Division's Hockey Academy and the changes that had to be made in order to follow COVID-19 guidelines.
I just like being on the ice and practicing my skills.
Grade 5 student Maddox Leahy hasn't seen much ice time over the past few months, but with LPSC's Hockey Academy, he's now getting that chance.
We haven't got a lot of skating done with COVID-19, so we haven't been able to get on the ice. So it's good to be back.
The Hockey Academy was running in October and November, but it was put on pause until this past week. And in order to offer the academy safely, they had to follow new guidelines, including mandatory masking for both players and coaches and more.
We're allowed 8 players or 8 participants on each sheet of ice. And we are allowed to divide the ice into 2 sections using the mini boards that we've borrowed and from Lloydminster Minor Hockey. So we've got some great community partners that are helping us out here.
The academy has students from 3 different LPSD schools, which can prove to be a challenge with the new restrictions.
Our hockey academy starts in 4th grade. We go 4th grade all the way up to 9th grade, and we operate through 3 different schools. So College Park School, Rendell Park, and Bishop Lloyd. It's creating procedures when we operate through 3 different schools, and busing and keeping classrooms together is also important. So there's a lot of challenges that we've got when operating under the guidelines we've got right now. So many moving parts.
Registration is opening soon for next school year's Hockey Academy, as they are just waiting to see what the regulations might be like next year.
We're currently creating a plan and an outline for next year for the 2021-22 season. Registration and all the details will be available in April sometime. We're looking at the end of April for our early registration. And then again, we're hoping to have some details ironed out by then.
For Maddox, he's glad he has the chance to hang out with his classmates once again.
It's fun because I get to talk to him, and I don't get to talk to him as much in school. So.
And that's it for this week's Beyond the Classroom.
Beyond the Classroom is brought to you by Lakeland College, home to the most hands-on education in Canada. Apply today and graduate job ready.
As we approach the 1-year mark since COVID-19 was deemed a worldwide pandemic, many are finding ways to honor what's been lost. Becca Day has more.
To learn more about the Together in Remembrance, Together in Hope Vigil, I'm joined by Blake CITL, a co-organizer of the event. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much for your time.
So tomorrow's vigil will mark the 1-year anniversary of when the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a worldwide pandemic. Why was it important for you to mark the date in such a way?
You know, I think humans are the kind of people we're always marking events ritually, whether it's a birthday or a wedding or a funeral. I was talking with a lady named Ann Redekop a few months ago, and she mentioned that she just said off the cuff, I hope the province does something to mark this day. And so I basically sent out an email to a large number of religious organizations at first, multi-faith pieces, just saying, is there any interest out there? Because I had no idea whether there'd be any, if the idea had legs, as they say. And we got about 15 or so responses. And then we tried to make the participation as broad as possible. So we just started reaching out to other groups as we thought of them. And that's basically where it began.
And what will the vigil look like for those taking part?
So the opening piece is sort of typical of what people would expect of a vigil, except because it's multi-faith and including people of no faith. We have different groups sort of opening up with a land recognition, and then with, I think it's Jewish, Hindu, Muslim sort of openings, calls to prayer, just as a way of gathering us, so very brief pieces. And then it sort of culminates, the first half culminates with gathering all of our griefs, the things that we've been mourning. Because again, for some people, they've lost a loved one. They've lost the lives of someone in their family or a close friend. Exponentially more have mourned the loss of, the freedom to gather, of a sports season, their jobs, their businesses. So we're going to gather all of those with a candle lighting vigil, a candle lighting piece. And then the second part of the vigil is going to be helping us to move into that place of optimism to say, what are the things that we're looking forward to? What are the things that we're excited about? What gives us hope? And we'll be marking that in different ways with poems and songs and an opportunity for people to chat about that on the chat room on Zoom. Yeah.
Perfect. And how can people watch the vigil?
So the website that we set up is simple. It's covidvigil.ca. And on that page, you'll find a link to register for the event. And you do have to register to participate on Zoom. But once you give us your name and the city you're calling from or that you'll be tuning in from, you'll be sent a registration link. And then people will just click on that link and they'll join the vigil. And of course, the way it works is their screens will be able to be turned on, but we're going to be muting everybody just so that there's less, audio traffic. And that'll be what they can do. We're also going to be live streaming it, but I imagine the largest part are going to be participating through Zoom.
Awesome. So as we've mentioned before, the vigil is taking place tomorrow. What time can people tune in?
So it starts at 7 p.m. and we're not, in Saskatchewan time. We're not going to be opening it up probably till about 1:45, but if people come on there a little earlier, it'll just be, they'll just be waiting. But, and I think the event, we were initially looking at about 45 minutes. It might run an hour, but we recognize that some people might join for 10 minutes. Some people might join for the full event. So it'll run no more than an hour, really.
Awesome. And what are you hoping people get out of this event?
One of the things about the COVID virus is how much it has isolated us, separated us from each other. Now, for myself, I've been very lucky. I was at work on a Friday and went home with my laptop and thought, maybe I'll need to stay home for 3 days, but I was home for a year. But I had family, I had friends, I had people I worked with that I could stay in touch with. There's a lot of people in the province who are incredibly isolated. Folks in long-term care homes, this has been a huge struggle for them. For folks who maybe don't have family, people living on their own. So this event is intended to be a place where the people of Saskatchewan can gather and just to see that they are not alone in their grief, they're not alone in their hope.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, Blake. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. I hope to see everybody there.
Now our Evan Kenny will take a first look at your weather forecast.
Thanks, Jasmine. That is right. We are going to take some look at some evening temperatures here. Currently -8 degrees in the border city. It was a colder one though than what we felt the last week or so. Things are starting to get a little colder here, but they should start to warm up as that week continues. Like I said, -8 today, but it felt closer to that -15 mark with that wind chill, and overnight continuing on with that wind chill, it could feel closer to that -20 kind of range. There will be quite a bit of wind as we go along too. Taking a look at some other temperatures from around the region here, -5 degrees in Provost, -6 in Wainwright, -8 in Vermilion, Marwayne, St. Paul, and Lac La Biche, -7 in Cold Lake, Vegreville, and in Edmonton. As we take a look now at the Saskatchewan side here, -5 degrees in Macklin as well as in Maidstone, -7 in North Battleford, -8 in St. Walburg, Meadow Lake and Pearceland, and then -9 in Green Lake and in Isla Cross. Now, as we take a look here, if our satellite will come up here, here we go. We see a little bit of action down here right around Edmonton. They did see some flurries today as well. Right around Saskatoon saw some flurries today. Our radar currently does not show anything, but there is a chance Lloydminster could be seeing a little bit of snowfall as the night goes on there. As we move along here, having a little bit of technical difficulties here. But running it down overnight, you will be seeing quite a few wind gusts. Those will reach between 30 and 40 kilometers per hour, thus making it quite a bit colder. As we jump back here, looking at some temperatures for tomorrow, -17 to get things going. So like I said, really cold overnight, but that will warm up all the way to -5 there, and we will be seeing some sun. Now in North Battleford, once again, it will be cold overnight before a sunny one, similar in Cold Lake there. Now as we take a look here at your 3-day forecast, things will start to warm up as we go into that weekend there. That's all we have for weather for now. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Vermilion and Athabasca's public libraries are teaming up for a virtual Readers Theater program. Tate Lakecraft got the scoop.
Sitting down with me right now from the Athabasca Public Library is Cheryl Andrews, and she's here to talk about a new partnership that's been formed with the Vermilion Public Library. Thanks so much for joining me, Cheryl.
Thanks for having me.
So how exactly did this partnership come to be? How did you guys get in touch, and what do you have planned so far?
Well, I was promoting a program that we are doing in Athabasca, and the program coordinator, Sheila, out of Vermilion, saw the posting and contacted me and said, "What is this? This sounds cool. Like, any chance I could sit in and learn about it?" And we went from there. We got chatting about it and decided that we should offer it to the community there as well. And so the partnership is great because Sheila's got things to bring to the partnership and I have things to bring, and so we can help each other and offer it to both communities.
And you guys are running a new adults readers theater program that's going to operate virtually, right?
Yep. Yeah. So this is a new thing, right? We're trying to figure out how do we reinvent the wheel. So the program will be over Zoom, and we're doing 6 sessions. So it doesn't really matter if you're in Vermilion and Athabasca, we can all get together because it's over the computer, it's digital. So yeah, so that's a great perk. So we can connect people from across the province, really.
And you're the host of the program yourself, correct?
Yes, I'm a theater artist, so I have this other job at the library as well. But so it's a good fit for me to lead that kind of a program. So we've done it in person before, so it'll be a little bit different because you can't move around or interact in the same way in some of the activities. So we're thinking of how that's all going to work, and it's a bit of an adventure for all of us. But yeah, I'm very excited to have an opportunity to do drama with adults, and even though it's online, we can still, Readers Theater is a great format for the online because you don't have blocking and you don't have to memorize your script in the same way that standard theater is.
And might you have any kind of sneak peek for what people can expect from the Readers Theater program?
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to keep it light. It's a time of COVID. Everything's pretty dismal, I think, a lot of times. So we're going to get together and be a distraction and be creative. So yeah, there'll be some theater games. We'll be exploring character development, and we'll be writing a variety of different scripts, so that it'll just be an exploration, a break in the middle of the day. People are coming on their lunch break. So it's just a short kind of breather in the day.
And for people who might want to experience the Readers Theater program for themselves, where can they go to learn more or sign up?
Well, I think you can find information on both of our Facebook pages, both libraries. There is also on the poster that's on there is our contact information. You can get that as well, and I'm happy to share that with you if you want to include it in the post. Yeah, or you can call either the Athabasca Library or the Vermilion Library, and someone could get you information if you can't find it elsewhere.
And is there anything else in relation to the program that you wanted to get the word out for?
Well, we have limited spots left, so if you think this sounds interesting for you, we're starting tomorrow as our first one, so you can reach out, but we'll let people join late if we still have a spot or two left. So don't hesitate to give us a call, even if it's past the starting date. We'd love to make it possible for anyone who wants to be involved.
Four months have passed since the last AJHL game was played. As Friday's 2020-21 regular season restarts gets closer and closer, the Bonnyville Pontiacs are getting set for action. With the AJHL's restart this weekend, the Bonnyville Pontiacs are getting set for 8 straight games against the Sherwood Park Crusaders. The Pontiacs, Crusaders, and the Lloydminster Bobcats were supposed to form a cohort, but due to restrictions in place by the Saskatchewan Health Authority, the Bobcats will be on the sidelines.
It was unfortunate what happened to the Lloydminster Bobcats. It would have been great, and things out of their control, and that's really been the flavor for the past year and a half, where there's nothing in our control, and that's the frustration part. And those were the common words of excitement, grateful, privileged. So tremendously looking forward to being able to now play games.
Between November 21st, the Pontiacs' last game before the break, and February 25th, the AJHL's trade deadline, the team's roster has seen some changes. Goaltender Bradley Mistel from St. Paul, forward Wyatt Cook from Cold Lake, and Cam Emai from Bonnyville have all been added.
And so our philosophy before the pause happened, and it continues to be now, is that we are looking for young players that we could work with within the next 3 months that would give them a little bit of a head start, so to speak, on when we look at our team for next year. And the great thing about all three of these guys is that they're tremendously gifted character players off the ice. So they're good people, and we all know that good teams have good players, but great teams have good players with high character, and these three certainly fit the bill.
The Pontiacs will look to improve on their 2-2 record from before the break on Friday when the RJ Lalonde Arena plays host to the Sherwood Park Crusaders. Well, taking another look now at your evening temperatures, currently -8 degrees here in Lloydminster, -7 up in Cold Lake, as well as in Edmonton, Red Deer, and in Whitecourt, -6 in Rocky Mountain House, -5 in Edson, -8 in Athabasca, and -3 out west in Jasper. Taking a look now at the Saskatchewan side here, -5 degrees in Saskatoon, -7 in North Battleford, -2 in Melfort, -6 in Prince Albert, and -8 over in Meadow Lake. As we move up north here, -9 degrees in Grand Prairie, as well as in High Level, and then -11 in Peace River and in Fort McMurray. Moving over here now, -9 degrees in La Ronge, -5 in Flin Flon, and then -11 in Buffalo Narrows, La Loche, as well as in South End. Now taking it to the southern portions of each province here, -4 degrees in Lethbridge, -3 in Medicine Hat, -6 in Calgary and Coronation, and -5 over in Banff. Now here in Saskatchewan, 1 degree in Estevan as well as in Regina, 2 degrees in Moose Jaw, and then -2 over in Yorkton, -4 in Swift Current, and -6 over in Kindersley. As we take a look here now at your national temperatures, 8 degrees in Vancouver, -4 up in Whitehorse, where they are seeing some of these winter storms there as we move more central here. -17 degrees in Yellowknife, 0 degrees in Winnipeg, 12 degrees in Toronto, 5 in Quebec City, -1 in St. John's, 4 degrees in Halifax, and -24 up there in Iqaluit. Nice cold one there. You know, -8 does feel cold here in Lloydminster, but maybe not quite that cold. As we take a look here at your overnight temperatures, things will feel quite cold with that wind chill being close to that -25 range, wind gusts around 30 to 40 kilometers per hour throughout the night. So as you look there, you know, right around that -20 range and just slightly warmer. As we take a look now at some of tomorrow's temperatures here, things will warm up a little bit, but we still will have some of that wind and a little bit of coldness there, as it will be -4 degrees in Lloydminster, Maidstone, Marwayne, St. Paul, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and in Pearson. Now, taking a look at your 7-day forecast, while it is in the minuses tomorrow, things should warm up for the weekend and for next week. As you look there, 3 degrees, 2 degrees, and 3 degrees throughout your weekend, and then 0, -1, and 1 degrees for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with lots of sun there. And besides tonight, things do look pretty clear in those skies. That's all we have for weather for now, but we'll be back after the break with more news.
Stephanie Dobson is joining us once again this week. And this week, Stephanie, it's part 2 of our series from last week, where we're talking about how to help kids thrive in essence, a 2-home family. So we went through 5 tips last week, going to go through the next 5 this week. So Stephanie, yes, let's start with the first one, which is learning to communicate effectively as co-parents. Tell me why that's so important.
Communication in any setting of our lives is a struggle and something to always work on. You know, it's at the foundation of every co-parenting relationship is good communication. Communication is often what my clients will say was one of the main reasons for the breakdown in the relationship. And so we know that if it was difficult in one home, it's going to be even more difficult in 2 homes. I really recommend that you try to come up with a good system between the both of you as to the method of communication for any particular type of topic. So some things you might say, let's text about these things, let's talk about these things, let's email about these things. And you know, in some of the previous segments, we've even talked about the use of technology like a co-parenting app that parents can communicate, and maybe they want to communicate through those types of means for, you know, more difficult topics. That sort of thing. You know, with Up a Notch Learning, my e-learning community, in there we have an ebook that's a free download that talks about effective communication. So viewers can go check that out if that might be of use to them.
All right, and the next tip is about consistency and keeping things consistent. Talk a little bit about that, Stephanie, please.
This is a continuation off of tip number 2, which was consistency between the parenting schedule. This is an extension where we talk about consistency between 2 households. It's really difficult for children, especially at exchanges between 2 homes. And one of the most difficult things, of course, well, if there's conflict between the parents, but also it's that sometimes 2 households will run very differently. And so kids have to put on their brain for mom's house or their brain for dad's house. And, you know, it can be really tough on them. So you may want to think about getting consistent on things like bedtimes, electronics rules, curfews, screen time, that sort of thing. Even the use of electronics at the dinner table, homework rules, even nutrition guidelines, you know, when are they allowed to have junk food, hygiene, discipline, those sorts of things. That can also help so that children don't see too much of a difference between households, and then they may start to favor one household or the other because one is more lenient, for example.
Okay, and the next tip is to liaise with the professionals that surround the children. So I assume that would be like doctors, teachers, that kind of thing. Why is that such a big deal?
Exactly. So the professionals I'm talking about are, as you said, so doctors, dentists, counselors, school administrators, teachers. They all surround your children, and they're going to help your children as they grow and develop. And they're going to be recommending certain things for each of your children. I highly recommend that parents have firsthand contact, if possible, with those professionals that surround your children so that you can get the information directly, the recommendation that they're making. You can hear it direct from the professional. You can ask the questions that you have, so that can help to impact the conversation that you and your co-parent have as far as making those final decisions if you have joint decision making.
Okay, and the next tip, Stephanie, is to choose an out-of-court negotiation process. Obviously, this is one of your specialties, so tell me why this is such a big deal.
You know, and I harp on it a lot, and we've done a few different segments about various ways to keep your divorce or separation or divorce out of the court system. It's not just me. There's rules through the court system. There's government legislation that talks about the importance of keeping your divorce out of the court system. And part of that has to do with the level of conflict between the parents. And so we're going to talk about conflict in tip number 10, but we know that conflict is toxic for children's development. When you choose an adversarial process, a court process, typically that's going to escalate the conflict between parents. By choosing to stay out of court, mediation, collaborative divorce, settlement-based resolution, what you're doing is you're looking to bridge gaps between two parents rather than widening those gaps. This is all good for kids.
Okay, and as you alluded to, Stephanie, our last tip this time is to reduce the conflict, as you said, between the parents. And you kind of talk a little bit about that, but let's expand on why that is such a big issue, especially for helping the kids.
There's a study that was done in Alberta that millions of dollars, private dollars, were spent to do research on the impact of toxic stress on children's brain development. That was one aspect of the study. And what they found is that that toxic stress, which can be things like a high conflict household or conflict between two parents, can actually change the shape of a child's brain development. What we're looking for is to give these children the best opportunity to thrive in a two-home household. And sometimes moving into two households can actually, by its nature, have the parents have less interaction with each other and can reduce that conflict. What we want is for parents to learn how to be what my good friend Karen Bonnell, who is an author and a mediator in Washington, USA, she talks about parents being CEOs, co-parent executive officers. And that's where parents are learning to communicate in a cordial and business-like relationship, because they are in the business of raising two children. And what we want to do is to help parents to get out of the spouse brain and into that parent brain. And that's what can impact children positively.
All right, Stephanie, well, thank you once again for joining us this week. Always great information. And as usual, if people are looking for to either get in touch with you or for the e-learning community, Up a Notch Learning, what's the best place to start?
Sure. Our website has some great information. So our law firm website is henkadivorce.ca. And if you're wanting to get some great free resources with respect to separation and divorce to empower you as you go through your process, check out upanotchlearning.com. And as always, you can call our office for more information, 780-875-2234.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, and we will chat with you again next week.
Thank you for having me.
Melissa Yee is a Canadian emergency room physician who's also an award-winning writer. She's out with her new book, Scorpion Scheme, and she joins me now to talk a little bit more about it. Melissa, first of all, can you just take us through what is Scorpion Scheme? Tell us a little bit about it.
So Scorpion Scheme stars Dr. Hope C., a medical resident who solves crimes as well as saving lives. And this time she's in Egypt. So she's just supposed to do a medical elective. Everything should be good. But she and her fiance run into trouble almost right off the plane. And they end up trying to help a man with a nail through his head. And he is a man from South Africa who may hold the key to the $500 million in buried gold.
This book, I believe, is the 8th book in a series. What's it like working with characters that you've already kind of know and kind of continuing their story along? Is it harder or is it easier to write this novel?
Well, it's enjoyable for me because she's based on me in the first place, because I'm a medical doctor as well. And I enjoy watching her grow through the series. And, you know, you get your cast of characters and you get to play with them too. The only thing that would be challenging, I guess, is if you wanted to introduce new things. But in my case, I don't think it's more so much based on setting as the fact that medical residents are stuck in the hospital most of the time. So you don't get very many changes in settings.
So as you mentioned, you are a doctor in your real life, and obviously you based your character somewhat on yourself. But how does being a doctor kind of influence your writing?
I'm an emergency doctor, so the nice thing is it's shift work. So you're either on or you're off. One thing that family doctors, for example, find really tough is even when they're not physically there or on call, they're still getting lab results and stuff after hours that they have to wade through. For me, I find it very inspiring because I get to meet people like both doctors and nurses and other staff and patients in all times, including in times of crisis, which is really a privilege. And, you know, a time of chaos can also later be turned into a story.
Now, other books in this series that you've written have been recommended by the Globe and Mail and CBC Books. They've been really well received. Does that add more pressure for you when you're coming out with another book to kind of live up to the hype of your previous novels?
Oh, that's a hilarious question. It's like asking celebrities, well, you've peaked, so is there anything left? No, for me, I'm always like, you know, I'm a type A sort of person, so there's always a higher mountain to climb. So, you know, critical acclaim is one thing. I'd like to reach more readers. I'd like to reach more readers in Alberta too, for example. So you could always build. A lot of pressure in writing is self-inflicted. So, you know, it's a mind game. If you can get away from it, then, you know, just stay there, just write your books and make everybody happy.
So obviously there's going to be fans of your previous books that are going to want to read this new book, Scorpion Scheme, but who else would also be like an ideal reader of this book?
Well, of course, you know, you want everybody to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I found that women tend to be more receptive to my books, and nurses, teachers, you know, basically educated women and strong women tend to be my best readers. But if guys come by, they're usually really awesome. You know, they'll say, I really want to support a local author, or I've heard of you. And they tend to enjoy thrillers, which is what most of the Hope books are.
And you talked a little bit about women liking the book and maybe resonating a bit with the protagonist. Can you talk a little bit about having a strong female protagonist in your novel?
Yeah, this is one of my pet things because not everybody reacts well to a strong woman. You know, everybody says they want a strong woman, but then they're quick to criticize. Well, in real life and in fiction. I had a writing mentor, Christine Catherine Rush, and I talked to her because I was like, you know, some people say she's not nice enough, you know, or they don't like her, which is not a pressure that male protagonists or perhaps male writers may face as much. And she just looked disgusted and she was like, you know, I just figure that in 20 years, people won't complain as much, like society will have caught up and want strong female protagonists. And I think the tide is changing. Like certainly we're seeing more people who want women who make decisions, right or wrong, and who are willing to stay in the driver's seat.
What's something that may surprise people in this book?
One thing that people find surprising is that Hope is sarcastic and has sometimes a dark sense of humor. Maybe they're not surprised because, you know, medicine is famous for Black humor. But, well, one of my book club friends was like, oh, she says the F word. So I don't want people to be too scared off. I mean, we try to be realistic and use the vernacular, and there is the occasional F-bomb, but otherwise it's just a really great story, great characters. Just enjoy.
And for people who are interested in buying a copy of the book, how are they able to do so?
Well, to always talk to your independent bookstore. As long as they have the name and the author name and the ISBN, they should be able to find it. And of course, it's available on Amazon, Kobo, and all the e-tailers out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for taking some time to talk with me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Chase.
Final look now at your weather for this hour. Tomorrow it will be -4 to start off. Things will be cold overnight heading into that as well before things really start to warm up for your weekend. 3 degrees and a mix of sun and cloud on Friday. Very similar on Saturday with a high of 2 degrees, and on Sunday with a high of 3 degrees. Before Monday is a high of 0 but will be sunny. Tuesday -1 and Wednesday will be 1 degree. So things should start to get nice and warm here in the future.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.